Okay, so I'll just take only for half an hour, 30 minutes or 25 minutes to complete one topic or one algorithm because already we are late. So we'll finish some part and the remaining part we'll see on Thursday. So in the previous lecture, we tried to discuss about scheduling algorithms. We have not started the scheduling algorithms. We have seen the initial part related to the scheduling algorithms. Like, first of all, what do we mean by the CPU burst or the input and output burst, which is in different cycles, the process will go to CPU. If there is any input and output, it will come back. Then it will go to CPU, it will come back. Like the full time, the process will not be in the CPU, it will be like in the cycles. Why we discuss this point? Because when the process goes for input and output, we can send some other process for the other process to the CPU. So that point we understand with context switching here, like process 0, process 0 will be running. If it goes for some input and output or something is going to process 0, then process 1 will start. Then if process 1 goes for input and output or something happens, then process 0 will be doing like cycles, one after the other. They will be switching between the process. Okay, so we understand these points in the previous lecture about dispatcher is the utility which will execute the scheduling. The CPU scheduler schedules which job to execute, and the dispatcher is going to execute that. Now, these are the points we need to understand carefully and very important to know why do we actually do scheduling. Scheduling criteria. Why do we do scheduling? To say in a simple words. So as we understand, CPU is not always busy. Like I gave you the doctor example. So one patient go to the doctor. If that patient is going for some lab, the doctor will be free. Now we want to use this time. We want to use this time. So for that reason, normally I gave you this example last class also, in the previous lectures also, when the patient goes out to the lab, so the doctor will not be free, we tend to send another patient. Patient 2 will go. Otherwise, patient 3 will go. Likewise, we want to keep the doctor always busy. In the same way, we want to keep the CPU as busy as possible. That's why we do scheduling. That's the first thing. Why do we do scheduling? Because we want to utilize the CPU at the maximum. CPU utilization, keep the CPU as busy as possible. Second point, we want to complete as many process as we can. So throughput, the process that completes their execution per time unit. So what is the throughput? How many process? This hash indicates number of process. So this hash indicates number of process. The number of process that complete their execution per time unit is called as throughput. I will give general example for you to remember how many patients. Sorry. Doctor can see. So if there are more, that is good. If they are very less, it is not good because we want to keep the doctor as busy as possible. So in that way, we want to keep the CPU as busy as possible means the CPU has to execute many jobs. So that is what is called as a throughput. How many jobs, number of jobs that complete their execution per time unit. What do you mean by per time unit? In 1 minute. For example, I want to see in 1 hour how many patients the doctor has seen. Same thing for the CPU example. In 1 minute, for example, how many jobs the CPU has completed. So what we want to do? We want to increase the throughput. So that is one thing. Second thing, turnaround time. This is important to know how much time the process is taking to execute, the amount of time to execute a particular process. I will explain the turnaround time in the coming slides, but please do remember what is turnaround time, how much time to execute a process. Means from the beginning till the process complete, how long it took. I will give you general example later to make you understand this point. This is important because in scheduling algorithms, we need to calculate the turnaround time. Also, waiting time. How much time that process is waiting in the ready queue. This is also important to know. Okay, so response time. The amount of time it takes from when the request has been submitted until the first response is produced. So this is called as a response time. Means I will give a general example. So the patient example again. Okay, so a patient went to hospital. Okay, for example, 8 o'clock. See the doctor at 8:30. Means how long it took the doctor to respond to the patient? 30 minutes. Okay, another patient. This is patient 1. Patient 2 went to the hospital at 8:10, okay, and went to the doctor at 8:35. Now, how much time it has taken for the doctor to see the patient for the first time? It is 25 minutes. Like first, when they went to the doctor is called as a response time. The amount of time it takes from when the request has been submitted, which means if you take a general example, when the patient entered the hospital until the first response is produced, first time when he meet the doctor. So how long it took? So the patient came to hospital at 8 o'clock, went to the doctor at 8:30. It took around 30 minutes to get the response from the doctor. Response from the doctor. So that is response time. Okay, why do we need to know about this? Same thing we do for the process also. How long the process has taken to complete, that is turnaround time. How long the process was waiting, that is the waiting time. How long it took for the process to get the first response is the response time. Okay, so these three we need to understand, but these two are very important because we calculate the turnaround time and the waiting time for the process. I will explain you the example. Okay, so why do we need to use the scheduling algorithm? I told you already. We need to use the CPU at maximum CPU utilization. Maximum throughput means we need to finish as many jobs as possible in a less time. That is for the second time. So third one, minimum turnaround time. So when we apply this, we want to have the process to spend less time for the execution. Okay, we want to reduce the turnaround time, we want to reduce the waiting time, and we want to reduce the response time. So if you look at the doctor example, what we want to see, the first point, we want to keep, just remember this because these points will stick in your mind, then you will understand the concept. That's why I'm giving the general example. Okay, so maximum CPU utilization means we want to keep the doctor busy. Means he has to work for a long time. What is maximum throughput? In less time, the doctor see more patients. Okay, what is minimum turnaround time? Patient spend less time in hospital. Means we have to spend less time in hospital. Okay, what is minimum waiting time? Patient wait for less time. What is minimum response time? Patient go to doctor as soon as possible. Okay, now I will ask you some questions. So because I want you to think. I write the answers here, but I just want to discuss with you. So when we have the doctor in the hospital, do we want to keep him busy or free? Because if I ask
Busy.
you questions, busy, because we want to make sure that the doctor is working for a long time and he is serving. We don't want to just simply make him busy. Why we want to keep the doctor busy? Because we want to make sure that he need to see many patients, because that is the reason why we want to make the doctor busy. Now, what we want to do in the computer, we want to make the CPU always busy. Okay, remember this example to compare. Second thing, do you want to make the doctor to see more patients or few patients?
More.
More patients. Okay, for example, in 1 hour, one doctor will see 5 patients. In 1 hour, another doctor will see 7 patients. In 1 hour, another doctor will see 10 patients. Who is the good doctor? The patient, the doctor who sees more patient. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
So, in the same way, what we want to do in the computer, maximum throughput. What do you mean by maximum throughput? We want to run more number of process in less time. So in a given time, we want to run more process. Like I gave the example, in 1 hour, one doctor is seeing 5 patients. In 1 hour, one doctor is seeing 7 patients. In 1 hour, one doctor is seeing 10 patients. So we prefer the doctor to see more patients. In the same way, we want to prefer the computer to execute more job. Okay, so that is the second example to remember. Okay, do you want to spend more time in the hospital or less time in the hospital?
Less time.
Less time. So now please do remember, this is one important point I want to make here. Turnaround time means, remember, this point you need to remember for the examples also which we are going to see. Turnaround time means, okay, so please remember this example. You went to doctor or hospital at 8 o'clock. Okay, 8 o'clock. So you are waiting. You are waiting to get the sticker. Okay, so you got the sticker at 8:15 because there are so many patients. Okay, then you went to the clinic. You went to the clinic at 8:20. Okay, it took 5 minutes to go there. Then you are waiting. You are waiting for the doctor in queue. Okay, so this time you are waiting. You are waiting. So when you went to the doctor is 8 or say 9 o'clock. Okay, so after that you went to lab at 9:15. Okay, so I will continue that. At 9:15 you went to the lab, then you came back to the clinic at 9:30. Then you went to the doctor at 9:40. Then you finish at 10. Okay, now if I ask you here, how long you are waiting? How long you are waiting? Okay, so if you look at this picture here, you went to the hospital at 8 o'clock, but to get the sticker, you were waiting. Okay, so that is one point. Second point, you got the sticker, okay, and you are waiting to go to the clinic, okay, at 8:20. So here also you are waiting. Now here also you are waiting to see the doctor. How long you spend with the doctor? 9 o'clock you went to the doctor, okay, and you went to the lab at 9:15 means 9 o'clock to 9:15 you are with doctor. Okay, then you go to the lab, you finish the lab at 9:15, okay, and from 9:15 you came back to the hospital, you came back to the clinic at 9:30, again you are waiting here. Then you went to the doctor at 9:40 and you completed your job at 10 o'clock, which means another 20 minutes. Okay, so how long you are with the doctor? So 9 o'clock to 9:15, 15 minutes. 9:40 to 10 o'clock, 20 minutes, which means totally 35 minutes you spend with doctor. What other time you are doing? What you are doing at the other time from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock? Students, can you think and tell me the answer?
2 hours.
Yeah, so totally 2
1
hours.
hour.
Totally 2 hours, right? So 8 o'clock you went to the hospital. You completed the hospital at 10 o'clock. Totally, you have 2 hours, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so in 2 hours, how long you are with the doctor?
35 minutes.
35 minutes. What you were doing at the other time? Remaining time in the 2 hours, what you were doing?
Waiting.
Waiting. So understand me. So you are waiting in the beginning in the queue to get the sticker. You are sitting in the hospital or say walking maybe here to go to the clinic. So 5 minutes. Here also consider this as a waiting time. Then you go to the clinic and then you are waiting for your turn to go to the doctor. So here you are waiting. Then you went to the lab. Maybe you are waiting there. After you complete the lab, then you came to the clinic. Again, you wait for 10 minutes. Then you went to the doctor and then you finish the hospital. So now, if you look at this, if you look at this example, hope you follow my example. If you look at this example, you have some waiting time. That is the waiting time here. Please look at the slide. What is the waiting time? Now, the patient is not with the doctor. So I told you, patient with the doctor is process in the CPU. Remember my example. Patient with the doctor means process in the CPU. Now, if the patient is in the doctor only for 35 minutes, all the other times, here it was waiting. Now, what is our goal? Our goal is we don't want to spend lot of time in the hospital. So patients spend less time in the hospital. We want to have minimum waiting time in the hospital. Patient wait for less time in the hospital. And if you can see this, 8 o'clock I went to the hospital. I go to the doctor at 9 o'clock. Okay, so imagine 1 hour it took for me to go to the doctor. So this is not good. I am waiting for 1 hour. So first I wait for the sticker, then I wait for the clinic, then I went inside the clinic, then I wait for another, say for example, 40 minutes, and then I went to the doctor at 9 o'clock, which means if you are keep on waiting for the doctor, it is not good. We want to go. That's why I write patient go to the doctor as soon as possible. So what is our goal? We want to reduce the response time. So hope you understand this point. Why do we do the scheduling algorithms? Why do we need to apply the scheduling algorithms? Because if we apply the scheduling algorithms, what can we achieve? We can increase the utilization of the CPU. We can increase the number of processes we can complete in a time unit, that is throughput. We can decrease the turnaround time. Please now remember, turnaround time means from the beginning, from the start to the end of the process. So from the start to the end of the process, the whole time is called as a turnaround time. So turnaround time includes waiting time also. So it is waiting time also. Now, if you ask me what is just a waiting time we understand the time we are just waiting to go to the doctor, or here in our example, waiting to go to the CPU, the process waiting to go to the CPU. So the total time from the beginning. Now, what is the turnaround time of the patient? 8 o'clock, the patient went to the doctor, to the hospital, and complete the job at 10 o'clock. So the turnaround time is 2 hours. Turnaround time is 2 hours. Okay, but only for 35 minutes in 2 hours, which means 120 minutes. The patient was there only 35 minutes with the doctor. All the remaining time, waiting time. Waiting time. So that is what you need to have the difference. Turnaround time, the whole time from the beginning till the end. The waiting time, how long? In the middle, waiting. Now, if you look at the process, when the process will be waiting, maybe input and output here, maybe another process want to run here, maybe something else happened here. So in between, the process will be waiting. So this is very important to understand, especially these two. What is turnaround time, waiting time, so that we can calculate by using the scheduling algorithms. I will tell you later on also, I will repeat this example to understand how to understand the turnaround time and waiting time. Okay, so there are 2 points we need to know. I told you in the last class, turnaround time, the preemption means in some systems we can stop the process, in some systems we cannot stop the process. In non-preemptive scheduling, a process keeps the CPU until it switches to the waiting state or it terminates the process. What do we mean by this? Once I'll just give the general example. Patient went to the doctor. Okay, can we tell the patient forcefully that go out of the doctor? Answer me. Can we tell the patient forcefully go out from the doctor? Students, are you following my question? Can we tell the patient forcefully that go out from the doctor before completing the job?
No.
No. So sometimes we cannot say that, okay, go out from the clinic because the patient has not complete. Okay, but if the patient want to go for a lab test, or if the patient want to, do something else, the patient is free. Patient can go, but we cannot force. We cannot force the patient to go out of the doctor. So this is non-preemptive. So what is non-preemptive? In non-preemptive scheduling system, a process keeps the CPU. Remember, whenever you see process, remember about patient. Whenever you see CPU, remember about doctor. So the patient will be with the doctor until the patient, go for a waiting, or the patient has completed the job. Until that time, we cannot force the patient to go out. So this is non-preemptive. Non-preemptive means we cannot, I will write in a general words so that you can remember, we cannot stop the process. Okay, the process can go itself. Maybe it is going for waiting, or maybe it has completed the job. Okay, but in preemptive system, the currently executing process can be removed from the CPU at any time. So again, I will take the same example of the patient and the doctor. One patient is with the doctor, but now we got one emergency case. One patient is critically ill, very bad situation. So that time we can ask the patient who is here to go, because we got another patient who is very urgent patient or very critically ill patient, emergency. So you can say there is one patient who is emergency, so you go out from here so that a new patient will go to the doctor. So what we need to understand, depending upon the situation, we choose. Non-preemptive, we cannot stop the process. Preemptive, we can stop or we can remove the process from the CPU at any time. Some scheduling algorithms are like this. Some scheduling algorithms are like this: preemptive, non-preemptive. Again, I will repeat when I go to the scheduling algorithms. These points also I will repeat when I go to the scheduling algorithms one by one. So don't worry about that. Okay, so these are some examples of the operating system. Windows, old Windows is non-preemptive. Windows 95, Windows NT, Windows XP are preemptive. Linux is fully preemptive. Mac operating system and earlier versions were not, but the new one, Mac operating system 10, this is for the Apple computers. It is preemptive. Okay, so some operating systems are preemptive, some operating systems are non-preemptive. But why are we discussing that? Because some scheduling algorithms are preemptive, some scheduling algorithms are non-preemptive. I will tell you about that when you go to the algorithms. Okay, now what normally we do is, remember, as I told you, this chapter is very important for the exam. So when we get the questions, we will get a question like this. You will be given the Gantt chart, which shows what is the name of the process, when the process has come to the system, and how long it will take to complete the job. Okay, so I told you what do you mean by burst. Here burst is CPU burst. CPU burst. So what do you mean by CPU burst? The time. Time. So what is the time here? How long it will take to execute? Or say execution time. Okay, so you will be given the questions like this because like the example what I told you, the patient example. So patient 1, patient 2, patient 3, when they came to the hospital, arrival time. One patient came at 8 o'clock, one patient came at 8:10, one patient came at 8:15. We need to know because there are some algorithms. There are some algorithms which use the arrival time. So I will tell about that once we go to the algorithms. Okay. Now, I will not completely explain this. I'll just tell you the example of algorithm because this is easy to understand. And more examples we'll see in the next class. Okay. So what is this algorithm if you understand? First come, first serve scheduling. So can you tell me in the general words what you understand with the name of the algorithm? First come, first serve.
First come, first end.
Yes, first come, first serve means the process which come first will go to the CPU first. Understand the point? Like the hospital example. That's why I use the hospital example so that we can easily relate these algorithms. First come, first serve means the patient who comes to the hospital first, they will go to the doctor first. Yes or no?
Yes.
So this is the same algorithm. So what is first come first serve algorithm? The simplest method is to execute the process in the ready queue on the first come first serve basis. So when a process becomes ready, it is put on the tail of the queue. So what happens here? We will be having, we discussed about the queues in lecture number 2. So we have a ready queue. We have a ready queue and here we have a CPU. Now, process 1 comes, so it will go to the CPU first. Now, process 2 will be ready. Then it will be in the tail. What do they mean by put in the tail of the queue? Means they are going to put in the end of the queue, tail of the queue. So another process comes in the system, process 3. It will be in the next. So process 1 will go to the CPU, finish the job. Then here in the queue, it is process 2. Then here it is going to be process 3. Okay, now if there is any new process, it will be in the queue. Then process 2 will go to the CPU. Then it will finish the job. Now here it is going to be process 3. It will go to the CPU. Likewise, whoever is the first one will go to the CPU. That is first come, first serve. So when the currently executing process terminates or waits for input and output, the process at the front of the queue is selected next. So it will go, the next one is process 4, then it will go, the next one will be the next one, it will go. So like what? One by one. So please remember the important point. Please remember the important point. This algorithm is non-preemptive. What do we mean by this? Can someone tell me? What do you mean by this? This algorithm is non-preemptive means what? If the process is in the CPU, we cannot stop the process. Please understand that. Non-preemptive, I told you, we cannot stop the process. Whether it is a small process or whether it is a big process, does not matter. Once the process enters the CPU, we cannot remove this. Okay, so this is non-preemptive. So we'll understand that. Okay, now look at this question. You will be given the questions like this in the exam. Okay, so look at this process 1, process 2, process 3. We need to know the arrival time because we want to know, because this algorithm is first come, first serve. We want to know who come first, who come later. How do we know arrival time? Same thing in the hospital also, right? When you go to the hospital, they know who is the first patient, who is the second patient, who is the third patient, according to the arrival of the patient. So same thing, process 1 came at 0, Remember, the time given here is milliseconds, 0 milliseconds. Process 2, 1 millisecond. Process 2, process 3 at 1 millisecond. Now, how long they will take to complete the job? This I told you, CPU burst. What is CPU burst? The time the process will take to complete. So, process 1 will take 24 milliseconds to complete. Process 2 will take 3 milliseconds to complete. And process 3 will take milliseconds to complete. Now, what we have to do? We have to create the algorithm. We have to create the algorithm, and then we need to calculate two things. As I told you, these two are very important now for us. Turnaround time, waiting time. Again, I am reminding, what is the turnaround time? From the beginning to the end of the process, how long it has taken, that is turnaround time. And in between, the process will be waiting, that is called as a waiting time. So we need to calculate these two for every algorithm, and I will be reminding you again and again about these two. What is turnaround time? What is waiting time? So what we need to do for the algorithm, you will be given the question like this. This is your question. This is your question. Now what we need to do, we need to calculate according to the first come first serve algorithm, what is the turnaround time and what is the waiting time. So how do we do that? I will show the example. Okay, so what we need to do, if you get the question like this in the exam, what we need to do, we have three processes. Process 1, process 2, process 3. Arrival times we need to know. Burst times we need to know. Okay, so how do we start? So we need to draw the Gantt chart. So we have process 1 is going to start. Okay, let me put the process here. So process 1 is going to start at 0 milliseconds. Now, how long this process is going to work in the system, students? What is the burst time? What is the burst time? 24 milliseconds. So process 1 will take 24 milliseconds to complete the job. Okay, a big process. Okay, so here at 24 milliseconds, process 1 has completed the job. Now, who is next in the queue, students? Who is next in the queue?
B2.
P2 is in the queue. So what happens when process 1 complete the job? Here, it is going to be P2. How long the P2 will work? 3 milliseconds only. Small job. P2 is very small. So P2 will complete the job here. So 24 milliseconds process 1 has completed. Okay, process 2 is going to take only 3 milliseconds, which means 24, 25, 26, 27. 27 milliseconds, the job has been completed by P2. Now we have in the queue process 3. Process 3 will take another 3 milliseconds to complete. That's the end. 27, 28, 29, 30. Is it clear now how to draw the Gantt chart?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so what is the important thing here is, don't look at the name of the process. Look at the arrival time, because this algorithm is first come first serve. You know, sometimes to confuse you, what we do is process 1 come at 1 millisecond. Process 2 at 0 milliseconds. Process 3 at 3 milliseconds. Like we give the arrival time. According to the arrival time, you need to choose. Now, which one will start first?
Process 2.
Process 2, because we have to always look for the arrival time. Why we need to look for the arrival time? This algorithm is first come first serve. Whoever comes first to the system, they will be executed first in the system. That's why we need to look for the first come first serve, the process which is coming first. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to calculate two things. One, we call it as a waiting time. Second one, we call it as a turnaround time. Okay, now let us look at this. How to calculate the turnaround time. I told you what is turnaround time. Turnaround time is the total time the process has taken to complete the job. Okay, from the beginning till the end, total turnaround time. How do we calculate that? Okay, so I'll just give you a formula how to calculate the turnaround time. Okay, give me one small answer before we do that. One patient come at 8 o'clock, okay, completed the job at 8:30. One patient come, okay, what is the total time for the patient to complete, students?
30 minutes.
30 minutes. This is very easy. Okay, now one patient came at 8:15, completed the job at 8:30. So what is the total time that patient has taken?
15 minutes.
15
15
minutes.
minutes. But the hospital is starting at 8 o'clock. Okay, so can we say this patient also has taken 30 minutes? Can we say that? Hospital starting at 8 o'clock. This patient came at 8 o'clock, completed the job at 8:30. So we understand this very easily because this patient took 30 minutes to complete the job. Second patient came at 8:15 and went at 8:30. He exactly took 15 minutes in the hospital. Now can we say this patient was in the hospital for 30 minutes or 15 minutes only?
15 minutes.
15 minutes only, because we don't count when the hospital has started. What do we count? When he has come and when he has completed the job. This is our point, yes or no?
Yes.
So the same thing, what we need to do, if you look at this, process 1 came at 0 milliseconds. Okay, which means from 0 to 24 milliseconds it was working. Process 2 did not come at 0 milliseconds, it came at 1 milliseconds, which means, so like the patient came late, so this also came late. So we need to consider, remember the formula, always we need to subtract arrival time. Why to subtract the arrival time? Because they are not coming on the time, they are coming late. So we need to subtract the arrival time. Okay, what is the formula now? Turnaround time is, okay, finish time minus arrival time. Okay, now let's say process 1. What is the finish time? What is the finish time of process 1?
24.
24. Arrival time?
0.
0. So process 1 has taken 24 milliseconds to complete the job. Because we know, like I told you this example, 8 o'clock the patient came, 8:30 the patient finished, 30 minutes. This is easy because it came at 0 milliseconds, completed the job at 24 milliseconds. So 24 milliseconds to complete the job. Now process 2 completed the job at 27 milliseconds, because this 27 milliseconds completed the job. Okay, and what is the arrival time?
24.
Arrival
One.
time. Arrival time. 1. So which means the process has been, the process has taken 26 milliseconds to complete the job. Now you can get a doubt. You can get a doubt. Teacher, this process has only 3 milliseconds. Why it is 26 milliseconds? What he was doing what the process was doing at the other time? Because it took only 3 milliseconds to complete the job. What it was doing the other time? Do you understand?
Ending the first process.
Yes, it was waiting for the first process to complete. Like, one patient, the first patient went to the doctor when at 8 o'clock. Okay, he took 30 minutes to complete the job, 8:30. Second patient came at 8:15. Sorry. Second patient came at 8:15. But when the second patient will go to the doctor after 8:30 only, he cannot go directly. Second patient will have to wait for this, which means here the patient 2 has to wait. Then patient 2 will go to the doctor at 8:30 and finish the job at 9 o'clock, for example. So patient 2 took only 30 minutes to go to the doctor, but 15 minutes the patient was waiting. So now what is the total time, turnaround time? We need to calculate when he came to the doctor. That's why I gave you the example of turnaround time. How long spent to the doctor is not important for us. When the patient came to the hospital, when the patient completed the job. So if I ask you turnaround time for this patient, so 8:15 the patient came, 9 o'clock the patient finished, 45 minutes is the turnaround time. Now, what we are doing, we are calculating the turnaround time. So what is the turnaround time? Process 2 has came to the system at 1 millisecond, but went to the CPU at 24 milliseconds after process 1 has completed the job. So all this time, process 2 was waiting. But to calculate the turnaround time, we need to see the total time. When it came to the system, when it has completed the job, that is called as a turnaround time. But as I told you, always we have to subtract the arrival time. Okay, so 27 milliseconds is the completion time. And when it has came to the system, 1 millisecond. So that's why we say 27 minus 1, it is 26 milliseconds is the turnaround time. Now process 3, when process 3 completed, 30 milliseconds. When process 3 came into the system at 2 milliseconds. So totally it has taken 28 milliseconds, which means 3 milliseconds to complete, but for 25 milliseconds, it was waiting in the system. So this is turnaround time. Now this is one thing we calculate. Second thing we calculate is waiting time. Now we need to know how long they were waiting. How long they are waiting. Okay, now I want to give you an easy formula. Okay, so to calculate the turnaround time, look for the finish time of the process. Like we have seen, 24 milliseconds, 27 milliseconds, milliseconds. Now to calculate the waiting time, look for the start time. Because we need to know when they started, then only we know how long they were waiting. Then look for the start time. Okay, now tell me, process 1, what is the start time? When process 1 started? Students, when process 1 started?
0 millisecond.
Yes, 0 millisecond. Okay, when it came to the system? Arrival time?
0.
0. So what is the formula now? Start time minus arrival time. Okay, now 0, 0. We understand process 1 did not wait for anything, 0 milliseconds. Why? Because we have seen in the system, process 1 came and directly started execution in the CPU. So that's why 0, it did not wait for anything. Okay, now let's check with process 2, waiting time. When process 2 started?
1.
Process 2 started. Not came to the system. When it started?
24.
24, because after completing process 1, we started process 2. So 24 is the start time. Minus when it came, arrival time?
1.
1. So 23 milliseconds. If you understand the picture, so for 0 milliseconds to 1 millisecond, process 1 was not here. Like I gave you this example. From 8 o'clock to 8:15, the patient was not here. That's why we have to start counting from 8:15 to 8:30. So how long this patient was waiting? Only 15 minutes. How long this patient was waiting, for example, 30 minutes. So that's how process 2 is waiting only for 23 milliseconds, then started the execution. Okay, process 3. When started process 3?
27.
27 milliseconds minus what is the arrival time? 2 milliseconds.
So
Okay, so this is going to be 25 milliseconds. So we understand first process took 24 milliseconds, second process took 3 milliseconds, 27 milliseconds, but it came little late. So process 2 came here, 2 milliseconds. So we don't count this time. We count from here. So from here to here, it is just going to be 25 milliseconds. The process 3 was waiting. Now what we need to do, we need to calculate the average. So total divided by 3. Here also total divided by 3. So we have to calculate the average waiting time. So that is given here. What is the waiting time? Process 1 is 0. 0 minus 0, you should understand now. Process 2, 24 minus 1. This is 24 minus 1, 23. Process 3 is 27 minus 2, 25. So the total waiting time is 48 milliseconds. Total of this 0 plus 23 plus 25 is 48 milliseconds is the total waiting time, but average waiting time is 16 milliseconds, which means each process on average they have to wait for 16 milliseconds. Now turnaround time, process 1, 24 minus 0 is 24, 27 minus 1 is 26, 30 minus 2 is going to be 28. What is the total of this? 78. The total turnaround time is 78 milliseconds, but the average time is 78 divided by 3 because 3 process 26 milliseconds. So this is how we calculate the first come first serve. The two important things, we calculate the waiting time, we calculate the turnaround time. Okay, so with that I will stop for today. There is another example. I will discuss about this and I will continue the next example. So we'll understand, we'll complete the remaining part in the next lecture. Okay, hope the points are clear. This is just a starting point for you to understand the scheduling algorithms. When we come back, we need to see 3 or 4 more algorithms. Once you understand one method, how do we do that? The remaining algorithms are going to be very easy. As I told you, these algorithms are very important for us to understand how the CPU normally schedules the jobs. Okay, let me stop.